Storytime, books, assertions, and I found it. I'm going to read this pretty much all the way through. Part of this is from Wikipedia, part of it's from translations from Russia to confirm that it was accurate, but here we go. Russia should use its special forces within the borders of the United States to introduce geopolitical disorder into internal American activity, encouraging all kinds of separatism and ethnic, social, racial conflicts. Blizzard of snowflakes. Actively supporting all dissident movements, extremist, racist, sectarian groups, thus destabilizing internal political processes in the U.S. It would also make sense simultaneously to support isolationist tendencies in American politics from the foundations of geopolitics. Published 1997. A geopolitical book by Alexander Dugin. The book has had a large influence within the Russian military, police, and foreign policy elites, apparently. But someone's using the word elites in a Wikipedia page. I gotta wonder. And was allegedly used as a textbook in the General Staff Academy of Russian military. 1997. Must be putting me on here. Anyway, the battle for world rule of ethnic Russians has not ended in Russia. Remains and has not ended, and Russia remains the staging area of a new anti-bourgeoisie, anti-American revolution. The Eurasian Empire, East Asia has always been our ally. Eurasian Empire will be constructed on the fundamental principles of common enemy, the rejection of Atlanticism, strategic control of the U.S., and the refusal to allow liberal values to dominate us. Military operations play relatively little role. The textbook believes in a sophisticated program of subversion and destabilization and disinformation spearheaded by the Russian Special Services, their CIA, their hacker groups. The operation should be assisted by a tough, hard-headed utilization of Russian gas, oil, and natural resources to bully and pressure other countries. The book states that the maximum task of the future is the Finlandization of all of Europe. The United Kingdom should be cut off from Europe. 1997. 1997 is when this put out. All of this may be influenced by the work of Carl Schmitt, a proponent of conservative international order, whose work was also cited by the Nazis. Cyber criminals using the target organization's own computer systems and credentials to move freely throughout their network, because anything installed on your computer automatically has trusted status, has been the method, the route de jour, to gain access to networks in nearly all of the intrusions into large corporations and organizations since 2014. 2016 and 2015. 2015 summer. Cozy Bear, a Russian hacking group, or that's their designation, they gave them a name, had access to the Democratic National Committee systems since 2016 April. Fancy Bear had access to it. 2016 June, after people started revealing that this was happening, shortly after they got banned, Guccifer 2.0's WordPress blog claimed and I'm going to leave a link to the thing, claimed in very non-hacker characteristic statements spoken in the third person, if it was an individual, that he alone orchestrated the DNC breach and sent significant amounts of docs to WikiLeaks, who won't reveal their sources, but said Russian hackers didn't do nothing. Julian Assange does have some things he wants to do. He wants to cause for the good of all mankind, just like any other hacker does. Just like evil hackers, they all have pie-in-the-sky ideas. The methods used here are sometimes called living off the land method. Basically, you use the tools you find, otherwise known as extreme programming. Unlike extreme ironing, where, well, you can look up extreme ironing, or extreme irony. Extreme hacking means literally using a copy of paint to make an executable. Yes, you can actually do this. I'm not kidding about this. You can grab a color chart off the net and use paint or another program to reduce it down to a certain number of colors, and it will pick the closest colors if it's a default install, and those happen to line up with certain codes. So you can have this grayish looking bitmap with dots all over it, and each pixel represents a byte, and that's all it is. You can transfer viruses as pictures, and vice versa. That's extreme programming, or extreme hacking. Living off the land method is the default behavior, actually not since 2014, but even earlier. Script kiddies use tools on their computers. Hackers break in and see what you didn't lock down. And it requires that you do an insane amount of practice. It is not something that a random Russian hacker somewhere does on their own necessarily, unless they're absolutely dedicated to the art, the dark art, the craft. You don't get good at that unless you put an ass ton of work into it. And if you put an ass ton of work into it, you're going to make a bunch of stupid mistakes and get caught, maybe. You're going to show up on someone's radar. You're not going to be untouchable and really good at it. You weren't always untouchable. That's not possible. But a group of people getting together, making mistakes, making records of it, learning from each other's mistakes, and fading to the distance, doing operations over here somewhere until they get really good at it and then attack this one here, an organizational attitude, that works. Also, the art of black hat hacking involves doing the same thing. You make sure your persona isn't visible. So calling yourself Guccifer 2.0, putting up a WordPress site of all things, and then phrasing it the way it was phrased. So I see some YouTuber talking about, oh, Guccifer 2.0 cannot be a, he can't be a fake, he can't be anything like that. Of course he can. The he we're referring to could be a group, should be a group, usually is. Ask Anon. Anon is usually done as a group effort. Divvying up tasks, breaking in, and then once they become compromised, exiting and never coming back to the project, but leaving the information behind for others to learn from and continue. Attacking from multiple angles. Why wouldn't a group do that? The lone hacker is an interesting, not myth, but close to it. It is still doable, but it does not lack risk. Oh, well, this is somebody saying, oh, that stuff was done by to make Trump look better, therefore... No. The United States is now overloaded with people who desperately want to believe every conservative concept, or, well, we'll call it conservative, every neocon concept, and also liberal, libtard concept. People don't want to be in the middle where they say, this is cement, this is tarmac, that's a steel box, that's a tree. They don't care about that. They care about what-ifs and bizarre scenarios. And exploiting that is something that Americans used to make fun of people doing to Russians. Russians are notorious for being into mysticism and stuff. The common population is easily manipulated that way. It's encouraged by state television in Russia. Always has been. What do we exploit here? People's desperate desire not to have to adhere to our rules in our own country. Of you lost an election because you're outvoted. Rumor milling is more popular than news. And I'm going to repeat this book from 1997. Just a little bit of it one more damn time to just drive this home. This is not, there's no more than one book like this. Goebbels did a book too. So did freaking Hitler. Doomed to repeat these chapters. Russia should use its special forces within the borders of the United States to introduce geopolitical disorder into internal American activity. encouraging separatism, ethnic, social, and racial conflicts, supporting dissident movements, extremists, racists, freemen on the land, militia, and only slightly covert, mostly overt, treasonous behavior, calling it patriotism. Now just take out Russia and stick in China. China has internal rules and regulations and shit, and they don't like our activists in our country taking up the cause of people in Nepal. So they literally have small, not terrorist cells, but propaganda cells in this country that do this crap. I'm going to include a series of maybe 1 or 2 videos, maybe more, below, last in the list, that show that that's actually being done. They're not even trying to hide it much. It's a PR campaign. It's always a PR campaign. PR campaigns work. It's just another word for propaganda. Did Hill Dog do anything wrong? Yeah, of course, Hill Dog did something wrong. Should she be present? No, she should be present. That's not relevant. Whether or not this actually happened, and whether or not this is not or is a quasi, not really much covert operation by the Russian Secret Service or whatever, I don't think that's really a question. I think that's a conclusion that people make. But this doesn't look good. This looks like external manipulation again. And it's tracked by people whose job it is to figure out where an attack's coming from, even if it's proxied. Coming from most likely the Russians, and from 2015 through 2016, full year's worth. And then Julian Assange and WikiLeaks and the whole bit say, oh, it couldn't be the Russians. And the reasoning is, what? Why the hell wouldn't it be? Why not? And I'm going to bring up something I did a while ago. Real elementary work, not really all that hard to do. Mostly just stumbled on it because I'm a doofus. Finding out that the website Someone's Bones is run by a person living in a former Soviet Union country, or maybe still in his Soviet Union. We don't really know where he is. Who left a bunch of clues behind that he's basically a propagandist for Russia. Posting stories that people credulously post again without questioning that it's just literally propaganda from Russia. People are very quick to point out all the propaganda in the United States, or Al Jazeera's propaganda. They don't point out, for some reason, everyone is being told that, no, why would RT, a Russia propaganda news source, lie to us? Because it's a Russian propaganda source. Why is everybody not using the same standard of evaluation here? This isn't really complicated, is it? It can't be. Is everybody taking crazy pills this week? Maybe they should. Anyway, someone sent me a link to something or other, and I stumbled upon this. I'll try to include the listing that shows the example of China, because people are more apt to accept the fact that, yeah, the Chinese government does a bunch of propaganda and might do it in the United States and might frighten you. So what's with all the pro-Russia, didn't do nothing propaganda on social media and people not pointing it out? It's a big Russian red elephant in the room. Is it a donkey? Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good